First contact gone dark. The research vessel, Artemis, drifted silently through the Cassiopeia sector, its advanced sensors probing the depths of space for signs of the vanished Centauri expedition. Dr. Rebecca Torres stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing yet another dead world. This was the third supposedly inhabited planet they'd found completely lifeless in the past month. Another one, she muttered, marking the coordinates in her log. Just like the others. Captain David Chen's voice came through the ship's comm system. Dr. Torres, we're picking up an unusual energy signature. You might want to see this. When Rebecca arrived at the bridge, the main display showed a massive debris field stretching across several thousand kilometers. Unlike the natural asteroid fields they'd encountered before, these fragments bore the unmistakable signs of advanced engineering. Initial analysis suggests these are remains of spacecraft. Lieutenant Sarah Paddle reported from her station. Multiple designs, multiple civilizations. Some of this technology, it's far beyond anything we've ever seen. Rebecca studied the readouts, her scientific curiosity warring with growing dread. The debris showed signs of weapons fire, but not from any conventional weapons. The damage patterns suggested something had literally consumed the ship's material structure. Captain, Sarah's voice carried an edge of urgency. I'm detecting an active power signature. It's faint, but it's there. Appears to be some kind of rescue beacon. David straightened in his command chair. Location. Coordinates marked. It's coming from inside what appears to be a sealed emergency pod. Bring it aboard, David ordered after a moment's consideration. Full quarantine protocols. Hours later, Rebecca stood in the containment lab, studying the sleek crystalline pod they'd recovered. Its surface was covered in flowing symbols that seemed to shift and change as she watched. The pod's occupant remained in cryostasis, their life signs stable but weak. The language analysis is complete, Rebecca announced to the gathered command staff. It's not just one language. The pod is broadcasting in over 1,000 different alien dialects, but they all say the same thing. Warning. Warning about what? David asked. Before Rebecca could answer, the pod's surface began to pulse with a soft blue light. The alien symbols accelerated their dance across its surface, and a holographic projection materialized in the center of the lab. The being that appeared was humanoid but clearly alien, with iridescent skin and eyes that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. When it spoke, its words were translated in real time by the ship's eye. I am Ambassador Lyra of the Galactic Concordat. If you are receiving this message, then the harvesters have already begun their cycle in your sector of space. They are an ancient species that feeds on civilizations, not just their resources or their people, but the very essence of their technological advancement. They have destroyed countless worlds, absorbing their knowledge, and leaving only ruins behind. The hologram flickered as it continued. We tried to fight them. The Concordat was an alliance of over 10,000 species, and we failed. But we discovered something in our final days, a weakness. The harvesters cannot process certain types of technological development, particularly those that evolve in unexpected ways. Your civilization's path may be different enough to. The message cut off abruptly, but the pod's occupant began to stir. David turned to his crew. Get me Earth Command. Priority Alpha. The next few hours were a blur of activity as the Artemis's medical team worked to stabilize their alien guest, while Earth's governments debated their next move. The pod's occupant, who identified herself as Navigator Zara, provided critical information about the harvester's capabilities and patterns. They follow technological signatures, Zora explained, her translator converting her crystalline language into English. They are drawn to civilizations that develop along predictable paths. Your species, you're different. Your technology, it's irregular, adaptable in ways we never considered. Rebecca leaned forward. What do you mean? You developed digital technology alongside analog systems. You still use mechanical backups for crucial systems. Your approach to space travel combines multiple theoretical frameworks instead of following a single technological path. It's inefficient by our standards, but that very inefficiency might be your salvation." Before they could discuss further, the ship's alert system blared to life. Lieutenant Patel's voice was tight with controlled fear. Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL. Energy signatures matched the patterns in Zora's data. It's them. David's training took over. Battle stations. Get us out of here. But as the massive biomechanical forms of the harvester ships emerged from hyperspace, their organic hulls writhing with malevolent purpose, Rebecca realized they weren't just facing a threat to their ship or even to Earth. This was a moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. The Artemis's engines roared to life, but the harvesters were already moving to surround them. Their ships resembled massive deep-sea creatures, all tentacles and gaping maws ready to consume everything in their path. "They're scanning us," Sarah reported. "Our systems are—" "Wait." She paused, confusion evident in her voice. "They're hesitating. Something about our ship's configuration is giving them pause." Zara's eyes widened in understanding. "Your ship, it's not just one technological approach. It's a hybrid of different theories and systems. They can't predict how it will react because it doesn't follow the standard patterns of technological evolution they're used to consuming." David seized on this information. "Engineering, can we amplify that effect? Make our systems even more unpredictable?" Chief Engineer Marcus Wong's voice crackled over the comm. "Sir, we could try running multiple system architectures simultaneously. It'll be unstable as hell, but—" "Do it," David ordered. "Dr. Torres, work with Zora. I want to know everything about how these things process technology. Lieutenant Patel, prepare to broadcast on all frequencies. If we're going to survive this, Earth needs to know what's coming." As the crew raced against time to implement their desperate plan, Rebecca caught a glimpse of the harvester ships through the viewport. Their massive forms blotted out the stars, waiting to consume another civilization's achievements. But this time, they faced something they'd never encountered before: human ingenuity and its stubborn refusal to follow the expected path. The battle that followed would change the course of human history. But more importantly, it would prove that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in power or advanced technology, but in the beautiful chaos of human innovation. "Send the signal," David commanded, his voice steady despite the weight of what they were about to attempt. "Let's show these ancient horrors why humanity has survived every challenge we've ever faced." Rebecca looked at their alien guest, who watched the human crew with a mixture of hope and wonder. Perhaps, she thought, this was why the Artemis had found Zora's pod. Not just to warn humanity, but to give the galaxy a fighting chance through humanity's unique approach to facing the impossible. The harvesters were about to learn that not all civilizations could be predicted, categorized, and consumed. Some, like humanity, thrived on breaking the very patterns that these ancient predators relied upon. And as the Artemis prepared for the fight of its life, Rebecca knew that win or lose, this moment would echo through the centuries to come. The day humanity showed the galaxy why unpredictability was not a weakness, but the greatest strength of all: the human element. The emergency session of the United Earth Defense Council erupted into chaos as the Artemis transmission played for the third time. The massive chamber, usually a model of diplomatic restraint, now buzzed with the nervous energy of 200 representatives facing an unprecedented threat. Admiral Elena Santos stood at the podium, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic display showing the harvester vessels. "The Artemis's encounter proves two things," she declared, cutting through the noise. "First, we are not alone in facing this threat. Second, and more importantly, we might be the first civilization with a real chance of stopping them." In the front row, Dr. James Chen, Earth's leading expert in hybrid technology systems, leaned forward. He'd spent the last 72 hours analyzing the Artemis's sensor data, and what he'd found had kept him awake for most of that time. "The harvester's inability to properly process our technological approach isn't just an advantage," he explained, rising to join Admiral Santos. It's a weapon. Every civilization they've encountered before us developed along predictable lines. Clean, efficient, logical. But humanity, we're messy. We keep old systems alongside new ones. We combine technologies that, by all rational standards, shouldn't work together. And that's exactly why we might survive. The chamber fell silent as Dr. Chen pulled up his analysis. Look at our global communications network. We still use copper wire alongside quantum entanglement systems. Our spacecraft employ both fusion drives and solar sails. We never fully abandoned any technology. We just kept adding layers, creating hybrid systems that are incredibly resilient precisely because they're so redundant and unpredictable. Admiral Santos nodded. The Artemis survived because its systems confused the Harvester's ability to analyze and consume technology. Now imagine that principle applied to every human vessel, every defense system, every piece of technology we possess. In the back of the chamber, Captain Maya Chen, no relation to Dr. Chen, listened intently. As commander of the experimental warship Prometheus, she had more experience than most with unconventional combat tactics. Her ship was designed to test theoretical weapons systems, many of which had been deemed too unstable or unpredictable for standard military use. "Admiral," Maya called out, standing. The Prometheus was built to handle experimental tech. We could serve as a test bed for whatever countermeasures we develop against the Harvesters. The next few weeks saw the greatest mobilization of human resources in history. Every major research facility on Earth and its colonies turned their focus to developing what they called chaos systems, technology deliberately designed to be unpredictable and resistant to the Harvester's consumption ability. The Prometheus became the center of this effort. Maya watched as her ship was modified with systems that would have given any traditional engineer nightmares. Quantum computers were paired with analog calculators. Plasma weapons were wired through mechanical targeting systems. Every system was doubled, then tripled, each backup using a different technological approach to achieve the same goal. "It's beautiful," Navigator Zora commented, running her crystalline hand along one of the new hybrid control panels. The alien survivor had become an invaluable advisor, helping the humans understand exactly how the Harvesters processed and consumed technology. My people would have considered this heresy, combining technologies this way. We always sought the most efficient solution. Now I understand that efficiency can become a weakness. Maya nodded, studying the readouts from their latest test. The new systems were working, but they required constant adjustment and human intuition to function properly. No AI could manage the chaos they'd created. It needed human operators who could think creatively and adapt on the fly. The Harvesters evolved to prey on logical, predictable technological progress, Dr. Chen explained during one of the daily briefings. They're like a virus that's encountered only one type of host for millions of years. But now, they've found a species that developed differently. Our technology isn't just resistant to their consumption. It's actively hostile to their method of processing information. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A team of video game developers, brought in to help design new user interfaces for the hybrid systems, noticed something crucial about how the Harvesters approached technological analysis. "They're like speedrunners," one developer explained, using gaming terminology that surprisingly fit perfectly. They've optimized their approach based on how civilizations typically develop technology. But we're essentially running a different game with different rules. Every time they try to analyze our systems, it's like trying to use glitches from one game in a completely different engine. This insight led to a new approach in developing defenses. Instead of trying to create the most advanced or powerful systems, Earth's engineers focused on making them fundamentally incomprehensible to the Harvester's method of technological consumption. Maya stood on the Prometheus's bridge, watching as her crew ran another simulation. The ship's new systems were a nightmare of complexity, but her people had adapted with remarkable speed. Humans, it seemed, were naturally good at managing chaos. "Contact," her sensor officer called out. Multiple harvester signatures detected at the edge of the solar system. This isn't a drill. Admiral Santos's voice came through the command channel. All ships, execute Operation Pandora. Remember your training. They're expecting a civilization that follows the rules. Let's show them why humanity never got that memo. The Prometheus led the defense fleet out to meet the threat. Each ship was now a unique combination of technologies, a puzzle that the harvesters would have to solve anew each time they encountered it. And behind them, Earth itself had been transformed into a technological fortress that defied conventional analysis. Maya felt a fierce pride as she looked at her crew. Humans had spent their entire history taking different paths, finding unexpected solutions, and refusing to abandon old tools just because new ones came along. What had seemed like technological untidiness to advanced alien civilizations had become their greatest defense against an enemy that had never learned to handle the unexpected. All stations report ready, her XO announced. Maya took a deep breath, remembering all the simulations, all the tests, all the theories about why their chaotic approach might work. Now it was time to put it all into practice. Launch Operation Pandora, she commanded. Let's introduce the harvesters to humanity's special brand of technological evolution. As the fleet moved into position, Maya couldn't help but smile. Throughout history, humanity had been criticized for its messy, inefficient approach to progress. Now that very trait might save not just Earth, but countless other civilizations as well. The harvesters were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous prey is the one that refuses to follow the expected path of evolution. And humanity had made an art form out of defying expectations. Operation Stormbreaker. The harvester fleet emerged from hyperspace like a tide of living metal, their biomechanical ships casting long shadows across the solar system. Maya watched from the Prometheus's bridge as her tactical display tracked over 300 enemy vessels, approaching Earth's defensive line. All ships, maintain radio silence, she ordered. Activate the chaos protocols. Across the human fleet, ships began cycling through random combinations of their hybrid systems. Each vessel became a unique puzzle, their technological signatures shifting unpredictably. The harvester's initial scan passed over them, and Maya could almost feel their confusion. They're trying to analyze our defense grid, Lieutenant Raj reported from his sensor station. Their probe signals keep changing frequency, looking for patterns. Maya nodded. Give them patterns. Just make sure none of them make sense. The human fleet had spent months preparing for this moment. Each ship now carried what they called a chaos core, a system designed to generate technological noise that would confuse and disorient the harvester's analytical abilities. The principle was similar to electronic warfare, but instead of jamming communications, they were jamming the enemy's ability to understand and consume human technology. The harvesters made their first move, a group of smaller ships advancing toward the human line. Their organic hulls pulsed with energy as they prepared to begin their consumption process. Now, Maya commanded, execute Operation Stormbreaker. The human fleet split into 3 groups, each running different technological configurations. As the harvesters engaged the first group, they encountered systems that seemed to operate on completely different physical principles than they had moments before. They're falling back, Raj reported, excitement in his voice. Their consumption beams can't lock onto our ship's signatures. But the harvesters weren't defeated yet. Their ships began to adapt, their organic components evolving in real time to try to match the human vessel's chaos. That's when Maya revealed their true strategy. All ships, initiate protocol battle. The chaos cores across the fleet synchronized, creating a cascading wave of technological interference. Each human ship began broadcasting signals that mimicked different alien civilizations' technology. Civilizations the harvesters had previously consumed. The effect was immediate and devastating. The harvester ship's adaptive processes went into overdrive, trying to analyze and consume what appeared to be dozens of different technological civilizations simultaneously. Their biomechanical systems couldn't handle the conflicting information. Their ships are losing cohesion, Raj reported. The organic components are rejecting the mechanical elements. Maya watched as the first harvester vessel literally tore itself apart, its attempt to process too many different technological signatures at once proving fatal. Others followed, their highly evolved consumption abilities becoming a weakness when faced with humanity's technological chaos. But the victory was short-lived. The main harvester fleet surged forward, having learned from their advance force's failure. These ships moved differently, more cautiously, using new tactics that suggested they were capable of adapting their strategy as well as their technology. "They're learning," Maya muttered, "faster than we expected. All ships, fall back to secondary positions. Initiate Hydra Protocol." The human fleet scattered in seemingly random directions, each ship now operating on completely independent system configurations. The harvesters would have to solve each vessel individually, with no pattern to help them predict what they would encounter next. That's when the hidden element of humanity's defense revealed itself. From the dark side of Mars, a fleet of unmanned drones emerged. These weren't sophisticated AI-driven vessels, but simple remote-controlled platforms carrying a mix of ancient and modern weapons. Radio-controlled missiles flew alongside quantum-guided torpedoes. Ballistic projectiles were launched from mass drivers next to antimatter warheads. The harvester's consumption ability was based on understanding and assimilating technology. These drones, operating on principles so diverse and sometimes so primitive that they defied systematic analysis, tore through their ranks. "Multiple harvester ships breaking formation," Raj called out. "Their adaptive systems are overloading." Maya allowed herself a small smile. "Launch the Trojan horse." From within the drone swarm, special packages of corrupted technological data began broadcasting directly into the harvester's neural networks. It was like introducing a computer virus, except this one was designed to exploit the very adaptability that made the harvesters so dangerous. The effect rippled through the enemy fleet. Ships began firing on each other, their consumption systems corrupted by the chaos of human technology. Others simply shut down, their organic components refusing to interface with mechanical systems that no longer made sense. "Ma'am," Raj's voice was quiet with awe. "They're retreating. The main fleet is pulling back." Maya watched as the mighty harvester armada, perhaps for the first time in its ancient history, fled from its intended prey. But she knew this wasn't the end. The harvesters would be back, with new adaptations and strategies. "Send word to Earth Command," she ordered. Operation Stormbreaker was successful, but we need to prepare for their return and contact our new allies. They need to see this. In the aftermath of the battle, as recovery teams collected debris from destroyed harvester vessels for study, Maya reflected on what they'd accomplished. Humanity had proven that their chaotic, inefficient approach to technology wasn't just a viable alternative to the logical progression of other civilizations. It was a powerful weapon against those who would try to consume that technology. The harvesters had evolved to prey upon civilizations that followed predictable paths of technological development. They had never encountered a species that treated technology like humanity did, as a vast toolkit where old and new methods could coexist and combine in endless variations. "Send the signal to begin Phase 2, Maya commanded. "It's time to show the galaxy that chaos isn't just a defense. It's the key to defeating the harvesters once and for all." As the Prometheus led the fleet back to Earth, the first transmissions from other surviving civilizations began arriving. They had witnessed humanity's victory, and they wanted to learn this new way of fighting. The age of technological purity was over. The era of creative chaos had begun. The hidden defense. Dr. Rebecca Torres stared at the holographic display, her eyes wide, as the simulation confirmed her theory. After 3 months of studying harvester debris, she'd finally understood their fundamental weakness. The answer had been hidden in their perfection. "They can't handle broken technology," she explained to the assembled military leadership. "Not just chaotic or unpredictable systems, but technology that's deliberately imperfect. Their entire existence is based on consuming and perfecting technological advancement. When they encounter systems that are intentionally flawed, it creates a paradox in their consumption process. Admiral Santos leaned forward. How can we use this? We build a defense grid that's perfectly imperfect, Rebecca replied. Systems that work because they're broken, not in spite of it. The implementation of Project Paradox began immediately. Every major city on Earth was surrounded by defensive systems that operated on principles that defied conventional engineering. Quantum computers were programmed to make small but deliberate errors. Shield generators ran on algorithms that included random failures as part of their operation. Maya Chen, now leading Earth's combined defense fleet, watched as her ships were retrofitted with the new systems. The Prometheus's bridge now looked like a mad scientist's laboratory, with interfaces that flickered randomly and power systems that hummed off-key. It's beautiful, Navigator Zora commented, her crystalline form reflecting the chaotic light patterns. My people sought perfection for so long, we never realized that imperfection could be a strength. The first test of the new defense came sooner than expected. The Harvester fleet returned, larger than before. Their ships evolved to handle the chaos tactics that had driven them back previously. But they weren't prepared for what humanity had created. All stations, activate the paradox grid, Maya ordered as the enemy fleet approached Earth. The planetary defense system came online, but not as a unified network. Instead, each node operated independently, running systems that were deliberately designed to fail in unpredictable ways. When the Harvesters attempted to analyze and consume this technology, they encountered something that violated their most basic programming. The first wave of Harvester ships approached the outer defense perimeter. Their consumption beams activated, reaching out to absorb and perfect the human technology. Instead, they encountered systems that rejected perfection, that operated on principles that celebrated flaws and turned weaknesses into strengths. Their ships, Raj reported from his station. They're trying to process our defense grid, but the paradoxes are causing cascade failures in their organic components. Maya watched as Harvester vessels began to malfunction. Their biomechanical systems, evolved to seek and create technological perfection, couldn't handle the deliberate imperfections humanity had woven into their defenses. It was like trying to divide by zero, a fundamental error that their processing couldn't resolve. The defense fleet moved into position, each ship now a unique expression of imperfect engineering. Weapons fired with deliberate variance, shields fluctuated in patterns that only made sense because they didn't make sense, and targeting systems achieved perfect accuracy by embracing inaccuracy. They're attempting to adapt, Rebecca reported from her research station. But every adaptation just creates new paradoxes for them to process. The Harvester fleet's formation began to break down. Ships that had evolved over millions of years to consume and perfect technology were being undone by humanity's embrace of imperfection. Some vessels simply shut down, their organic components unable to reconcile the contradictions they were encountering. Others began to attack randomly, their targeting systems corrupted by exposure to technology that defied their fundamental understanding of progress. Launch the paradox probes, Maya commanded. Small, unmanned vessels shot out from the human fleet. Each one was a concentrated package of contradictory technology, designed to infiltrate Harvester ships and force their systems to attempt to process impossible technological configurations. The effect was devastating. Harvester vessels began to tear themselves apart as their organic components rejected their mechanical elements. The mighty fleet that had consumed countless civilizations was being defeated not by superior technology, but by humanity's willingness to embrace and weaponize imperfection. They're retreating, Raj announced. Multiple ships are attempting emergency FTL jumps. Many are failing due to system corruption. Maya watched as the Harvester fleet scattered, their perfectly evolved systems undone by humanity's deliberate imperfections. But she knew this wasn't just a victory for Earth. This was a fundamental change in how civilizations could defend themselves. Send the signal to our allies, she ordered. The defense protocols, the paradox grid designs, everything. It's time for the galaxy to learn that perfection isn't always the answer. In the months that followed, Earth became a beacon for surviving civilizations. Species that had hidden from the harvesters for generations came forward to learn humanity's strange new approach to technology. The paradox grid spread across the galaxy, creating a network of defenses that the harvesters couldn't overcome. Rebecca continued her research, probing deeper into the nature of technological evolution. She discovered that humanity's greatest strength had always been its willingness to embrace contradiction, to find ways to make things work that shouldn't work, to see beauty in imperfection, and to turn apparent weaknesses into unprecedented strengths. "We never needed to be perfect," she told Zara as they watched another group of alien engineers learn to implement the paradox protocols. "We just needed to be human." The age of the harvesters was ending, not with a final battle, but with a fundamental shift in how civilizations approach technology. Humanity had shown the galaxy that sometimes the best defense isn't to build better walls, but to make those walls wonderfully, perfectly imperfect. Dawn of the Coalition. The Harvester homeworld loomed before the combined fleet, a massive construct of biomechanical architecture that spiraled through space like a living machine. Maya Chen stood on the Prometheus's bridge, leading not just Earth's forces but ships from 47 surviving civilizations, each one modified with humanity's paradox technology. "All fleets report ready," Raj announced. "The paradox grid is synchronized across all vessels." The harvesters had retreated to their origin point after failing to overcome humanity's imperfect defenses. Now, for the first time in millions of years, they faced a unified opposition that understood their fundamental weakness. "Begin the assault," Maya ordered. "Execute Operation Phoenix." The Coalition fleet moved forward in carefully planned chaos. Each ship's systems ran on different principles, creating a cacophony of technological signatures that the harvester defenses couldn't process. But the real weapon was hidden within this chaos. Dr. Rebecca Torres had discovered that the harvester homeworld itself was the source of their drive for technological perfection. It contained the original programming that defined how they consumed and evolved technology. If they could corrupt that source code with humanity's paradox principles, the entire species would be forced to change or die. The battle began with a ferocity that lit up space itself. The harvesters fought with desperate intensity, their ships evolving in real time to try to counter the Coalition's attacks. But each adaptation only made them more vulnerable to the deliberate imperfections woven into humanity's strategy. "Main defense grid is destabilizing," Raj reported. "The paradox protocols are affecting their central systems." Maya watched as sections of the Harvester worldship began to shimmer and distort. Their perfect technology was being corrupted by exposure to systems that defied their fundamental understanding of progress. The organic components of their world were rejecting the mechanical elements, creating cascade failures throughout their civilization. "Launch the Phoenix Protocol," Maya commanded. From within the Coalition fleet, special ships carrying the most concentrated form of paradox technology, yet created, moved into position. These vessels were designed not to destroy the harvesters, but to force them to evolve beyond their original programming. The Phoenix Protocol activated, sending waves of corrupted data directly into the harvester world's core systems. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The massive structure began to pulse with chaotic energy as its perfect systems encountered humanity's weaponized imperfection. "They're broadcasting something," Zara announced from her station. "It's different from their usual signals." Through the command channel came a new sound, the first direct communication ever received from the harvesters. Their message was simple but profound. "We understand." The harvester worldship's transformation was visible now. Its rigid, perfect structures were becoming more organic, more chaotic. The species that had spent millions of years consuming technological perfection was finally learning to embrace imperfection. In the aftermath of the battle, as the Coalition fleet helped stabilize the changing harvester civilization, Maya stood with representatives from dozens of species in the Prometheus's observation deck. "The galaxy feared them for so long," Zora mused, never realizing that the key to stopping them was not to fight their strength, but to show them a different way of existing. The Coalition of Free Species was formally established that day, with Earth playing a central role not because of superior technology or military might, but because humanity had shown the galaxy a new path, one that celebrated diversity, embraced imperfection, and turned apparent weaknesses into unprecedented strengths. We never needed to be the strongest or the most advanced, Maya told the assembled representatives. We just needed to be ourselves, chaotic, unpredictable, and perfectly imperfect. The Harvesters, now evolving into something new and unknown, became a testimony to the power of change. Their world ship was transformed into the Coalition's headquarters, its once perfect systems now a beautiful blend of order and chaos. As ships from across the galaxy arrived to join the Coalition, bringing their own unique approaches to technology and civilization, humanity had achieved something greater than victory. They had shown that the future belonged not to those who sought perfection, but to those who could adapt, innovate, and find strength in their differences. The age of the Harvesters was over. The era of unified diversity had begun, and at its heart was the species that had dared to suggest that sometimes the best way forward was to embrace the beautiful chaos of imperfection.